Over the last couple of months in uni, we have been set 3 different jobs that will be sort of in and around the jobs that we will be finding after we leave uni. These 3 have included, for me precisely, set building, acting, and boom operating. Today I'm going to go through each of these 3 jobs that we've been set and sort of go through the expectations and reality of each sort of job role. Job role number 1, set building. The sort of expectations of set building is to sort of serve the story, try and match the aesthetics and style of the script and what sort of the director's going for. Obviously it includes construction and a lot of teamwork when building the set, because you don't do that by yourself. You need to know how to assemble basic structures, how to work and control and safely use power tools like drills, screwdrivers, stuff like that. Painting is a big one as well, to give a nice look and feel, depending on how the director wants it and sort of matches the tone and look of the genre that the film might be in. This obviously, you need a good attention to detail when it comes to set building. My experience was very good. We were set into a group of about 3 or 4. There was 3 of us working on the one set, and our sort of look and feel we were going for was like a war-torn World War II era, sort of post-apocalyptic, like sort of set in an era where maybe the Germans won and they were raiding houses and stuff like that, and it was just really fun to do. We set up 3 massive walls, got to painting, stripping the wallpaper that was already on there, made some shelves to put up, hung a door. That was really exciting, it was really fun, and I feel like compared to what I should have expected, it sort of hit all the marks. We did good attention to detail. I feel like for the script and sort of the idea we were going for, it matched really well and it ended up looking quite good in my opinion. I think we did very well with that. In terms of what if I would do set building again, I think I 100% would. I think it's a really sort of exciting part and it's a bit more behind the scenes. Doesn't really get recognised as much. Like usually you'd go into a big set or a film and all you'll see is, wow, this massive city skyline, and you're like, wow, this looks amazing, this looks stunning, but you don't actually go into detail of who's made that skyline, who's done this, that, or the other. So it's a bit underappreciated, but it's definitely something I'm looking forward to doing more in the future, especially just being a bit handy around set, knowing what's what, sort of knowing the ins and outs of the set as well is really like appealing to me. Quite like just knowing we brought this up from the ground up, and behind it is just plywood and other little studs to keep it stood up. But I really enjoyed doing it. It fit the expectations pretty much spot on. It was exactly what I was thinking and it went really well. The second job role that I myself performed in was acting. We acted in a short little clip that was meant to emulate A Quiet Place, and it was a little bit different from the expectations, because usually the expectations of an actor is sort of vocally and physical performance, you know, that includes like script analysis and stuff like that, but also listening and reacting to what's happening in the scene. Do you know what I mean? To give a good performance, you have to put yourself in the sort of the role that you're playing, put yourself in their shoes. You don't want to you don't want it to not look, you want it to look like you're not acting. You want it to look like this is how you as that character is reacting to the scene. This also requires a lot of teamwork, working with the director, working with the other actors on camera, seeing what sort of feel you're both going for, trying to make sure that you are on the same wavelength. That does require taking a bit of initiative, taking a bit of direction and all that sort of good stuff. Another big component of acting is being punctual. The sort of how everything runs on a set is very well oiled. There's not really a cog out of place. So if you're an actor, even though you are like sort of the big name in the project, it doesn't mean you could be late, it doesn't mean you can miss a deadline, it doesn't mean you can do any of this stuff. You are just as important as a grip, just as important as a set builder, just as important as anyone else on that shoot. So punctuality is a very big sort of part in being an actor. How this sort of those expectations meet the reality of working in this sort of situation. It's a little bit different because obviously on this set, since it was emulating A Quiet Place, we were going for more making our own sound effects in post. Like a lot of Foley work was done after the fact, a lot of sound effects and all the stuff like that. So we didn't actually get to do anything on set. So there was no script that we had to learn. There was no like vocals, any sort of gasps or anything that we did on set. There was no sound like engineers or anyone on set that we were sort of, that we could talk to and like let know if our voices were good and anything like that. So it was a little bit different. So it focused a lot more on like the physical performance and how you react without using words. I did really enjoy it though. It was a really good, fun part that we get to play. I'm glad that everyone on set was just amazing. Working under these conditions of like, we could make noise, but it wasn't needed. So we tried to make as little as we could to sort of get into that role. Do you know what I mean? Get into what the actors on screen would be feeling at that moment and what they would be reacting to. Sort of brings the audience in as well, so they sort of there with us. The third job that I was lucky to work on was boom operating, and sort of, as you would imagine, the expectations of a boom operator is to operate the boom, like make sure the microphone is in there, capturing the clearest audio possible, but then also making sure it's not in frame. You never want a microphone in frame. It takes sort of the audience out of it if they can see their inner workings and outer workings of how something gets made. Also the same as like making sure your whole set is in frame and you can't see anything above it or below it, because it brings the audience just fully out of it, and that's just not what you want to do when you're making a film. Sort of similar to acting as well, you want a good bit of sort of script analysis. You want to know who and what's making the noises, who and what's speaking, so you can have the boom as close to them as you can or far away. You need to know if they're going to be like quiet, so you need to push it a bit closer, or if they're going to scream line, so you can pull it away, just so it doesn't muffle the audio and make anything post-production harder than it needs to be. Another big one is audio monitoring. You need to sort of make sure, this wasn't particularly my job on set, but sort of making sure that, you know, the levels on spiking, the levels on dipping, sort of keeping them in that perfect ratio of like nice hearing instead of that massive like too much bass and stuff like that. You want to keep it at a nice level so it's enjoyable to listen to. More sort of expectations to acknowledge would be sort of physically, like you need a very good stamina to be on boom operating. Also problem solving. While you might not think it, boom operating is a big sort of problem solving job. You want to make sure that you're never in frame. You want to also, if the camera's changed and your position that you're standing is not right for that scene, you need to make sure that you can quickly come up with an idea to like switch over, maybe go underhand, maybe, I don't know, change the way that you're standing in parallel with the camera, just so you're not in frame, you're not making anyone's job any harder and stuff like that. In reality, I really enjoyed boom operating. I thought it was probably one of my favourite. I've always more leaned in and liked sort of operating sound and stuff like that. One big note is definitely the physical and the stamina. It is tiring having something above your head the whole time. If you really need to find somewhere to rest it or do something like that, it is very important to sort of come up with that in the time. So if you're on set, you find your arms getting tired, try and hold out and then just bring it down to where it's more comfortable. Because as soon as you start out, you think, oh, keep it up here the entire time, get the best audio, can't think, but you can have a bit of leeway with it, just as long as it's sort of on the fly, making sure it's not inconveniencing anyone else. Also monitoring audio, like I mentioned, wasn't exactly my fault. We had a sound mixer on set who was sort of giving me notes and everything that was saying like, oh, you need to get a bit closer on this shot. When they stand up, can you make sure you're a bit further away? Obviously, if it was a bit different, I'd have the headphones on, with the monitor and changing it as I'm going along, but we had someone else who was doing that, which was very helpful. But yeah, overall it was 3 very, very interesting and sort of eye-opening rules that we got to work on. I really enjoyed all 3 of them. They sort of gave it a lot of perspective on how a set should be run and how it can be very efficient, and how if everyone sticks to their rule, does the best they can, if there's a time limit or if there isn't a time limit, everything goes smoothly. It goes as is intended, and it was very enjoyable. Even though like boom operating was my favourite, I would definitely want to give acting a go again. I've always loved just being in front of camera and just not being myself, like sort of playing a different role, playing a different character. I've always loved doing that. I think it's a very like fun way to play about. It's just like, feels like being a kid again. It's really exciting and stuff like that. It's like you get to be someone else for like an hour, 2 hours. I think it's great. I think it's a really fun activity to do, but it's also, again, with boom operating and sound, it just gives you a deeper appreciation for someone who can really capture like someone else, like especially when you watch like a biopic and an actor perfectly like encapsulates what the other person was like in real life. I think it really gives you a deeper appreciation. I'd love to do that again. I think it was really enjoyable. I would say definitely my favourite was boom operating. Just always been more interested in sort of sound mixing and sort of working in and around sound, and it was a nice experience to learn, and it gave me a deeper appreciation for boom operators who are regulars, like on shows, movies as well, but like shows where it's like filming twice, 3 times every single week. There's no really sort of wrap until the series ended or the season's finished. So it gave me a greater appreciation for that, like the stamina, sort of the problem solving skills that they need, like quick, need to be on the fly all the time. It gave me a better appreciation for people in the sound industry. The hardest part, I would say, for each of these 3 rules, okay, if I had to start from set building, I would say sort of just learning the ins and outs of, you know, how you keep those walls up, how to do something in a particular order, because you wouldn't imagine to set up a wall you need to have it anchored to something else. You would just say, oh, we'll put it up, put a stud on it, and it'll stay up. No, to set up a wall in particular, you know, you've got to put one wall up, then put the next wall up, have someone hold it, have 2 people working together in tandem so it doesn't fall over and hurt anyone. Then as soon as you get those studs on, that is rock solid, it won't move. To get the 3rd one up again, just being a lot safer with it, also learning all the different tools and what you use them for. That was a little bit difficult right at the start to pick up, but then sort of becomes sort of second nature to sort of adopt that and hopefully take it on to future projects and stuff like that if I get to do set building again. For acting, it was sort of, after the first time you sort of get over it, but as soon as you're in camera for that first shot, that first take, it's very sort of a weird feeling. You never know if you're overacting or underacting. Like after the first take, I'm like, oh, can you act a little bit more surprised? Second take, oh, can you just dial that down a bit more? I feel like after a few takes, few goes around it, you sort of get that natural feel for it, and you sort of start to be your own thing. You don't try and imitate anyone else in that time. You sort of act it how you would act it in that situation, which was really like sort of eye-opening, and it was a lot of fun to sort of find that in myself to be my own thing instead of trying to be someone else, which was, you know, it was nice. Boom operating 100% has got to be holding that boom over my head for a good hour and a half, because what it was as well, that was quite funny. The whole sort of setup took so long. I was just like, oh, let's go, let's film. Well, it didn't take too long. It was a good half an hour, but so setting up your boom doesn't take that long. So when it was set up, I was like, let's go, I want to film. As soon as we got that first take done, I was like, whew, that was hard. That was a lot of sort of strength and to keep it up and that, and it was just, whew. But yeah, that is definitely something I want to work on in future. But for the first time around, 100% that was the hardest part. Noise levels and stuff like that, I had someone else managing it, so it wasn't as difficult. I imagine if I was doing that, that would be hard as well. But yeah, keeping that up and out of shot, that's definitely the hardest.